And with that, we move into another episode of The Plate Exchange, brought to you by On the Ring Apron. I'm Steve. We've got Alyssa working the camera. We're recording Top Rope Spoilers right behind this for Extreme Rules coming up this Saturday. So Kia will be joining us here in a little bit. She's feeding the little one, so everybody sends their love. And Alyssa, you can.
Hey, y'all.
Very sweet and simple. I love it. But we are here, as I said, for Plate Exchange. We've had a couple of title changes that have happened since the last time that we were able to join you guys. It's been a little bit. We're finishing up the renovations on our house again. So sorry that, it's been, they usually have a lot more material in a lot quicker order than we normally do, but unfortunately it just hasn't worked out that way. But we're continuing to move through it, hopefully back home soon, and we'll be able to get you guys regular content on a more regular basis. But with that, let's move into our episode here. First of all, I want to send a very heartfelt congrats to everybody within Mania Club, which of course we're members of. September was Childhood Cancer or Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month, where we were all supposed to, work together to donate funds for fighting pediatric cancer. Primarily, Mania Club works with Connor's Cure, as you've seen probably the hundreds of specials and commercials and whatnot through WWE over the years for Connor Mahalik. And Mania Club ended up crossing not only major barriers and being able to come up with well over its goal for the month of September, but we actually have crossed the $100,000 goal since we got started. And to top it all off, someone in our group, your boy, ended up getting to do the final donation offer, which was winning a signed Mania Club jersey that has the 100,000 across the back, and it is signed by virtually the entire NXT roster. So I will be showing that off when it does arrive. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. But just because it's not September anymore doesn't mean that the fight stops. We want you guys to continue to keep working with us and continue to keep continue on with the fight, because it's not going to stop fighting us until we eventually win. And of course, for anybody who also knows October, that's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You're going to see a lot of pink. You're likely going to see those really cool pink women's championship belts that are not available for sale pop out. So definitely make sure you're providing your donations where possible. We're approaching the holidays, and this is the time for giving. We're trying to do our best to help out wherever possible, and we encourage you guys to do the same, even if it's just a dollar. Every little bit helps, because it could be the difference in someone's life. But let's move into our show here. We have 3 sets of plates to change over, and I say change over because technically we only have 2 we physically have to do. Let's start with the North American Championship, which of course was previously held by Carmelo Hayes on NXT 2.0 before it switched over to the new NXT. So we're kind of back to the black and gold brand again here, but ultimately he was dethroned by the returning Solo Sikoa of the Bloodline. And we're going to let Alyssa come in here and get a shot here. Originally, the match was supposed to be part of the anniversary show where they would have an opportunity for the fans to vote for who would face Carmelo Hayes for the North American Championship. Wes Lee ended up winning it, and ultimately he was attacked backstage by Trick Williams and by Carmelo Hayes, and it was Sikoa that answered the call, won the North American Championship, and for about a week was able to carry around the title with the Bloodline. Now that he's on Smackdown, unfortunately 6 days after he won it, he was stripped of the championship because he was, by definition, not an official option for the match. So at this point, the NXT North American Championship is officially vacated until Halloween Havoc a couple of weeks from now. But we were privy enough to be able to get the Solo Sikoa plates before he had to drop his title. So letting everyone get a brief look at those real fast, and we'll make sure we get some good screenshots for you. Unfortunately, no opportunity to be able to put them on the belt because he's not the champion at the moment, and that's always been something we've prided ourselves on, is if you're not holding the title, you don't get the plates. But we do have them, and who knows, he might go back someday and win it, but I have a feeling I think bigger goals are in mind for him now that he is, with the ones. So we'll see how that pans out. But we wanted to make sure that his championship reign was acknowledged. One other title that is still pending right now is the NXT Tag Team titles, which were unified with the NXT UK titles and are currently held by Pretty Deadly. They have a small variation to their plate from the last time that they ended up being the champions, and we don't have them yet, so we're still working on it. They didn't think they'd be difficult because they really didn't give us trouble the first time, but they're being a little stingy with us being able to get a hold of them. So unfortunately, that's going to be one that's going to have to wait for another episode. But right now, Pretty Deadly still holding on to the NXT tag titles. But let's move back to the main roster. And one that we've talked about on Plate Exchange before is our current Intercontinental Champion. That is the Ring General, Gunther. Gunther has ruled over Smackdown with an iron fist. He is currently undefeated on the main roster since coming up. And about 4 months ago, he actually defeated Ricochet to win the Intercontinental Championship after being on the main roster for only 6 weeks. Now, we have even gone public to sit here and say that we thought that Gunther was ultimately going to be a traditionalist and that we thought he wouldn't have any plates. And there was a lot of discussion that he was going to end up staying with just the generic plates on the side. But that has changed this week as Gunther has finally gotten his own side plates. And thanks to our boy Jake out there. Jake, shout out to you. We were able to get a nice shot of him, made a phone call, and was able to get what we needed. So we actually have our hands on the Gunther plates that we will put on our Intercontinental Championship. He prepares this weekend to be in a good old, let's see if I can say it right, good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. Not a Donkeybrook match like I was heard earlier today.
Still on me.
What I did not have to do
was me.
you.
Thank you.
But ultimately, his championship not on the line for that match, but we are going to discuss it on top of spoilers, which will, if you're watching this live, will air in about 6 hours. So be sure to join us. If you haven't had an opportunity to go onto our YouTube community page, make sure you take the time to go in there and place your votes. The OTRAs have led almost every step of the way, but after the dual weekend with Clash at the Castle and Worlds Collide, I was trying to think of it, we have a new leader amongst our group for Season 3, and that is moi, as I've taken a 2-point edge over the OTRAs. Kia and Alyssa are both not far behind, and there's still about half a year to go, so there's still plenty of time for the OTRAs to catch up, as well as for the ladies to work their magic. Kia made a great run at the end of last season, so it is definitely not impossible for this for my lead to hold. They could become I could be the New York Mets of our group. That's right. Shout out to the Braves. That's right, burn. But let's get back into the wrestling faction here. We ultimately will have an opportunity to be at Extreme Rules this upcoming Saturday, as Kia will be the one representing us at this event in Philly. We actually have got some family up there. But Alyssa, your thoughts so far on the stable of Imperium, especially with the reuniting of Giovanni Vinci joining back up with Gunther and his group to now make that nice 3-person group, and how do you think they match up with a team like the Brawling Brutes, who you've actually gotten to see for quite some time now? There's her tagline.
Chill on me. All I'm gonna say is I've watched both groups, and if Imperium comes out like they did in NXT, which I fully expect they will, this is gonna be a banger match. Like, we saw the two leaders go head to head at Clash of the Castle, and they put on. It was your match of the night. It wasn't even close. Easily. And y'all know how I feel about Roman.
Because Drew and Roman put on a great match, but that was absolutely your match of the night.
Y'all know how I feel about Roman. But them two, they put on that match. And I was just like, wow. And then you got to bring in Butch and Ridge Holland. Butch. And then also bringing out... Lord, I want to call them by their old names. Help me. Ludwig and Giovanni. Them two as a tag team, because I got to watch them two as a tag team before they went up main roster and got split and all that. And they put on good matches by themselves. So just imagining the three of them together against the Brawling Brutes, like, this mess is going to be immaculate. I'm so excited.
Add in the fact that it's a Donnybrook match, so basically European kind of pub-style rules. Really, there are no rules, which seems to be the theme for Extreme Rules,
Yeah.
That's how it works out. But yeah, they have thrived well as a team, and Gunther, I mean, they've made him what they needed him to be. I mean, and like I said, I saw a stat go by the other day as we get a
yeah.
look at our plates here, but I just want to throw this out here for the GUNTHER fans out there, which I am most definitely one.
Absolutely.
This upcoming Sunday, he will have been on the NXT/NXT UK/WWE roster for his 6th year.
Okay.
In his 6 years, he has 2 losses.
Really?
2.
That's it?
That's it. 2 clean losses.
Dragunov and who?
He lost to Braun Breaker in one of Breaker's defenses when he was still on Raw.
Okay.
When Gunther was first coming up, they weren't sure. He was like a surprise thing, but it was back when they were having Breaker defend the NXT title on Raw. Gunther was a surprise one. He had just lost the UK title.
Yeah.
So he ended up losing twice in like a 3-week period, but he didn't lose a single match before that.
Dang.
And he hasn't lost since. And we're talking all matches. We're talking tag matches. We're talking 6-person tags. He has not been defeated. So the fact is, you know what he's capable of, and also that he employs good people around him.
Yeah.
So this has all the makings of a fantastic match, and we have ourselves a good Intercontinental Champion.
Absolutely.
So now, let me clear my spot here. That brings us to the other belt that we are exchanging. And it's one that I will admit I wasn't sure we'd ever get back on the show again because of the circumstances of why we lost it in the first place. And that is the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, we have been very steadfast in our point of view on this one, and I think that if you're... I'm going to call a spade, okay? If you're watching the show, you would absolutely be blind or living under a rock if you're not aware of the circumstances surrounding the former champions Naomi and Sasha Banks. Ultimately, there was a lot of backstage drama. They were asked to go in directions that would cause essentially the women's tag titles to be considered irrelevant. And it's not the first time that Sasha's been through something like that, because her and Bayley ultimately got put in that same situation a number of years ago as well. And so inevitably, they just picked a night where they said enough's enough, and they put their titles in the backstage area and they walked out the door. And as word started getting out, the company did everything they can to make these 2 African-American women look very disrespectful. And in the end, justice prevailed. We have seen the type of change that has come to WWE in the last 3 months. A complete new change in management, a new change in who's running things. A complete overhaul of the top, and a lot of news concerning its former owner, Vince McMahon, have now come to light to where now we are in the presence of a new and frankly more exciting WWE. But it was our declaration at the time that we would 100% stand behind Naomi and Sasha, which is why their plates for the entire period of time have remained on our women's tag team title belts throughout this entire process. We never vacated them. We never took them off, in show of, our support of their walkout as well as everything else. As we are well aware that while they have yet to return to the roster, they are actively back on the WWE roster, available to literally return whenever H feels that the moment is here and the moment's right. And it's going to lead to whichever arena they're in, the roof's popping off that place when all of a sudden you hear either the Boss music or the Glow on their way back out. But we've had a chance, luckily, both of them follow us on social media. So blessed. And we have had a chance to speak to each one of them individually. And they both have given us the go-ahead that they see our support and everything else. But we did not feel it was fair to change anything without their go-ahead and showing them that we still support them even without this. So now that we have, know that they have our love, they have our support, the women's tag team titles can now return back to our rotation. And with that, of course, with the vacation of the titles, we ultimately ended up having new women's tag team champions in the form of Raquel Gonzalez and Aliyah, who won the vacated tag team tournament. They never ended up getting any plates during their time, and ultimately 3 weeks later, they were defeated on Monday Night Raw by the team known as Damage Control, which is Bayley's stable of Io Sky and Dakota Kai. And then this last week on Monday Night Raw, they were finally able to get their plates. Simply just put Damage Control on both sides. So, pretty simple. A lot of folks, slightly irritated because they were hoping that maybe Each one would get individual plates, but the team plates have seemed to fit some motifs. I recall them doing something similar with the Iconics when they won the titles a few years ago. So it's not necessarily uncommon, especially if it is a team that since the moment they've gotten here have been tag team wrestlers. So with that, we will officially switch out these plates and don our new women's tag team championships to Damage Control. So Alyssa, I turn the table over to you. No pun intended, because I'm on a round table here. Your thoughts on the Damage Control stable since they made their debut in SummerSlam?
All right,
we were there to see it.
Yeah, we were there to see it, and I say this every single time Damage Control comes up, and I'm gonna stand by it again. A lot of their time before they became Damage Control I did not see, so when it comes to like Bayley, I don't know her. I am so sorry. I don't. So, like, I hear great things, you know, and I think she'll be a great person to lead this team. You know, they have victories, so, I mean, she doing something right?
And they could be holding,
right?
All three could be holding gold at the end of Saturday.
Sure, anyway, so.
One ladder climb away. More on that tonight on Top Rope Spoilers, but I digress. Continue.
Y'all know how I feel about the EST. Come on now. Of WWE. But, no, in all seriousness, the group, overall, they look pretty solid. Like, I mean, granted, they're going up against a group that's not really like a group, if that makes sense. Like,
you talking about Raquel and Aliyah?
No, I'm not talking about them two. I'm talking about Bianca, Alexa, and Asuka.
Alexa and Asuka.
Yeah, I'm talking about them. Like, they're not really, you know, a group. I mean, they've done stuff together, but they're not technically like a group like they are. So, I mean,
and I'll give some slight appreciation to that, because one thing that, you know, they always, you know, like to have in wrestling is the idea that a team should always be superior to two individuals, no matter how successful those individuals are in singles competition. A well-balanced team can work better, and that is why, really, for almost the entire run, that even Damage Control, which from the main roster perspective has far less experience and far less championship pedigree, has come in and has really been able to best Alexa Bliss and Asuka and Bayley, for the most part, with Bianca at almost every turn.
yeah.
You know, they've been able to create some shockwaves, but you are absolutely right in the fact that they have worked as a unit. They have worked as a team. Bayley coached them the right way, didn't immediately have them go run for the titles. They bided their time. They waited. And now they're reaping the benefits of Bayley's teachings. And, of course, what bigger victory than, you know, so soon after their debut, already holding women's tag team gold. And that is now properly reflected on our women's tag team titles, as Damage Control now holds and runs the WWE women's division. So we will see how all of this pans out, and see, of course, you know. And the one thing I will say for H, and Alyssa, throw your 2 cents in here as well. I mean, on both sides, men's and women's, but especially on the women's, they have revitalized, almost from life support, the women's tag team division.
Absolutely.
That is a division that, for all intents and purposes, even before Sasha and Naomi left, it was gone. Like, there was nothing, and everybody was sitting here, and that's the whole reason why Sasha and Naomi left, was because they were so irritated, because it's like, well, you're holding the tag titles, but let's make them irrelevant for 3 months while each of you go into singles runs. And, you know, it would have been real easy, because right now the written idea was that each of them were going to move on to title matches. You know, it was supposed to be Sasha going after Ronda Rousey at the time. Naomi was supposed to be facing Bianca Belair. And it would have been real easy to walk in and been like, well, look, I'm in the main event for title matches. And yet that's not what it was about to them. They wanted this to mean something. They wanted this to be the top title that women fought for, or one of, at least as an equal. And it's nice to see that it's paid off. And now the entire women's division has absolutely been revitalized. You're seeing some of these great teams come up from NXT. Io and Dakota had teamed up multiple times, but had never been a full-blown team. Raquel and Shotzi, who were a great team down in NXT, have now reunited over on Smackdown. You know, and it's not to sit here and say there aren't still great singles things, but at the same time, they're finding a way to take the singles storyline with Bayley and Bianca and find a way to also make it still about the women's tag titles as well. So, I mean, everything H has done up to this point has been masterful, and I hope it continues. I hope it continues for a while. But with that, that brings us to the end of Plate Exchange. Thank you so much for joining us here. Hey, it's Thursday. Hopefully, if you watched it at work, don't get yourself in trouble. Watched it at school, watched it at work, whatever. And join us here in a couple of hours. 6 o'clock Eastern is when we are scheduled to go live with Top Rope Spoilers. Kia will be with us, and we will be officially making our predictions for the 6 matches at Extreme Rules coming up this Saturday at Philadelphia. So, with that, I'm Steve with On the Ring Apron. This has been Plate Exchange. You guys have a good night. We'll see you in a little bit.
Bye.